The Supreme Court today weighing whether the Trump administration can end deportation protections for hundreds of thousands of Haitians and Syrian immigrants. What's at stake and how the justices are signaling they might rule. And in another Supreme Court development today, a unanimous ruling released in favor of faith-based pregnancy centers. The justices say they can challenge a New Jersey subpoena in federal court, citing First Amendment concerns. President Trump is reportedly planning to extend the naval blockade on Iranian ports. What the president says about negotiating with the leftover Islamic regime. And turning to media and regulation, the FCC ordering an early review of license renewals for Disney's ABC stations in major cities. The move comes amid an ongoing investigation and a broader dispute involving the Trump administration. Violent storms tearing across the heartland, a tornado flattening parts of North Texas, massive hail smashing through the Mid-East or Midwest, and wildfires still burning in the South. The latest from the storm zone.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. President Trump rejecting plans Iran's request to lift the naval blockade. He's doubling down on squeezing the regime economically through both the blockade and new sanctions. Joining us now live is NTD's White House correspondent Iris Tao. Iris, good afternoon. What is the latest?
Good afternoon to you as well, Don. So President Trump is now rejecting an Iranian proposal for the U.S. to first lift its naval blockade against Iranian ports while postponing talks about Iran's nuclear ambitions till a later stage. Instead, President Trump told Axios in an interview today that he will keep its naval blockade against Iran in place until Iran comes to agreement about its nuclear program. He also asked that, quote, the blockade is somewhat more effective than the bombing. They're choking like a stuffed pig. Meanwhile, last night during a state dinner at the White House, President Trump also reiterating his vow that he will not let Iran have a nuclear weapon. Watch.
Two of you might know, and we're doing very well. We have militarily defeated that particular opponent, and we're never going to let that opponent ever, Charles agrees with me, even more than I do, we're never going to let that opponent have a nuclear weapon. They know that, and they've known it right now very powerfully.
And Axios is also reporting that Central Command is planning more strikes on Iran to get them to the negotiation table. Meanwhile, this morning, President Trump on Truth Social posting that, quote, Iran can't get their act together. They don't know how to sign a non-nuclear deal. They better get smart soon. And that fresh warning is accompanied by an AI image of him holding a gun with explosions in the background with the words, no more Mr. Nice Guy. It comes as the U.S. Treasury is also trying to squeeze the Iranian regime economically by announcing in the latest development that has frozen more than $344 million in cryptocurrency tied to the Iranian regime. Of course, that's part of the Trump administration's current efforts to choke off the Iran's regime's economic revenue. Back to you.
And Iris, as well, about the shooting over the weekend, new court filings today are revealing details about the shooter that we didn't know about before. Can you tell us more about this?
Sure. So in a new filing today, the Justice Department included what it calls selfies that a suspect took just less than 30 minutes before he tried to charge the security checkpoint into the ballroom where the government says he tries to assassinate President Trump along with other high-ranking Trump administration officials. And in the photos, the Justice Department pointed out that it shows the suspect carrying weapons, including a knife and several accessories like a shoulder holster and wire cutters. Now, Cole Thomas Allen has been charged with attempted assassination of President Donald Trump, as well as transportation of a firearm and ammunition in interstate commerce with intent to commit a felony, as well as a discharge of a firearm during a crime of violence. Of course, the Justice Department says it's not ruling out further charges against the suspect. Back to you.
Okay, Iris, thank you. Conservative and liberal Supreme Court justices today appearing divided on whether the court can review the Trump administration's decision to end the temporary protected status program for Syrian and Haitian immigrants.
The provision thus bars judicial review of both the Secretary's ultimate decision whether to designate, extend, or terminate, and of each antecedent step along the way to that determination.
Congress was concerned about the fact that, for example, quote, the conditions under which safe haven may be granted, extended, or terminated do not appear in any regulation. That it appeared as though the executive was exercising its discretion in an unregulated fashion, and so Congress created this statute in order to restrict the executive.
The case centers around whether or not the former Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, followed the proper steps before determining that it was appropriate to end the temporary protected status program for Syrian and Haitian immigrants who had been living and working in the U.S. for as long as 16 years. The statute governing this decision states in part that the Secretary shall consult with other agencies to ensure that conditions are safe in those countries. Other provisions, another one is of the statute that prohibits judicial review of the Secretary's final determination. The attorneys for the two groups arguing that the court can review whether or not Noem properly followed those steps. Meanwhile, the Trump administration hammering home that the Secretary's determination is final and not subject to review. Liberal justices vigorously pushed back on the Trump administration's argument. And joining us now to discuss the Supreme Court hearing on the Trump administration's effort to terminate temporary protected status is Darlene Sanchez, reporter for the Epoch Times. Darlene, good afternoon. Good to see you. So one of the main issues here is surrounding the case, how far courts can go to review the Trump administration's decision on which nationals from countries qualify for protection. Can you tell us more about this? Elaborate on this point.
Yes. Well, you know, it's basically in the purview of the Secretary of State. This was under Noem at the point whenever, the administration decided that they wanted to terminate TPS, temporary protected status, for various groups. This case surrounds the Haitian and Syrian people that are living here in the United States under that protection at this point. So what it comes down to is really it's an argument about, since the statute involving TPS says that there is no judicial review, that it has been the argument, the government saying that whatever, the administration decides and determines in this situation, there can be no judicial review. However, those on the other side are saying, well, wait a minute, there's a procedure that's written into this law that you're supposed to go by and follow. And if you don't follow that procedure, then, you haven't actually done your due diligence. They didn't use that particular term, but that's what they're talking about. And therefore, this decision is flawed and it shouldn't be allowed to stand. There should be judicial review. So that's really it in a nutshell.
Okay, so in the hearing today, did you get any sense at all whether the judges were leaning one direction or the other?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. One of the points that I thought that was brought out during, the oral arguments was, okay, so what happens if, let's say that the plaintiff's, argument that, the procedure wasn't followed, whether it was right or wrong, the Secretary came out and went ahead and published, in the Federal Registry that they are taking away TPS, right? So after 60 days, that decision becomes final and it goes into effect. So the question is then, do you back up a decision and based on procedure alone? And the justices seem to be indicating that they found that that would be very difficult and probably not within, their within the realm of what Congress had wanted with this, statute. So, the plaintiffs said, well, look, we're not arguing about the decision that the Secretary made. We're just arguing about the procedure. But if the decision has already been made, then, and you can't argue about the decision, it's kind of like a circular argument there. And I think that's what some of the justices were getting at. And, that if you allow procedure to stop this decision, then aren't you therefore allowing judicial review? So I thought it was very interesting.
All right, so can you just explain for us what is at stake here? What exactly is temporary protected status? What would be the impacts of the results of this case?
Well, there are more than 1 million people in the United States under TPS. A portion of them, of course, are Syrian and Haitian. And what it would mean is that they would have to go back. They would no longer have temporary protected status. They would have to go back to their countries, their native countries. And a lot of them are arguing, well, look, we've been here 16 years. This is going to harm us. We don't think it's safe. That's the argument. Some of these people have built lives here. So, that, of course, is a big argument on the plaintiff side. However, the government is saying, look, this was never meant to be forever. This is temporary. The word temporary is in there for a reason. And if the conditions are good enough for you to go back home, then you should. And of course, the Trump administration, it is, built basically, its whole campaign, or one of its major points in the campaign when Trump was running for a second term, was we are going to deport the people who should not be here. And temporary protected status, they believe that was used as a tool to bring in people that probably shouldn't even have been here.
Okay, so Darlene, just one last thing here. You talked a lot about some of the arguments presented today. Could you talk about this one? One of the administration's key arguments is that the courts lack jurisdiction over immigration matters. Just briefly, finally, talk to us more about this. What does this mean?
Right. So in the statute, surrounding TPS, it says there is, no judicial review. And so again, the argument is that this is the executive branch. They are making the decision concerning foreign policy, which is under the purview of, the executive branch and the president. And, separation of powers, the judicial branch, particularly whenever it has it in the statute that there is no judicial review, should not be allowed to come in and second guess the administration's determination. And that's really the crux of the issue there.
Okay. Well, Darlene, always good to speak with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now we take you to the White House live, where President Trump is greeting the 4 Artemis II astronauts in the Oval Office. This is the crew that just completed humanity's first trip around the moon in over 50 years. Let's take a look.
Very, very good. Maybe a little bit of a problem. I don't know, I'm sure. We'll have to try it sometime. Is a president allowed to go up in one of these missions?
We can get working on that, Mr. President.
We have no problem, right?
We can launch more rockets. The opportunity.
We'll have to try it. Congratulations very much.
Thanks.
And by the way, their families are over here, beautiful families, and they're in the Oval Office, and they walked in, they said, wow, the Oval Office. Everybody likes the Oval Office. So, any questions, please?
Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, it's a great honor to meet all of you. Congratulations, and welcome to the White House. I have had the privilege of interviewing Gene Cernan, the last man to walk on the moon.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Is that what you would like to do? And Mr. President, do you think that will happen during your second term?
Well, we have a shot at it. I mean, we don't like to say definitely, because then you say, oh, we failed. Because I think we could say we're ahead of schedule. So we have a good shot. We've authorized it. And I think with this team and, with Jared's done such an amazing job at NASA, I think we have a good shot, right? We'll see.
Yes, Mr. President, we have an achievable plan now back to the moon. And we're back in the business of launching moon rockets with frequency. So we just sent Artemis 2 around the moon. We're going to launch Artemis 3 in 2027. We'll protect for up for 2 opportunities in 2028 to return astronauts to the surface of the moon.
I like space. I started Space Force, as you very well know. It's been very, very important. And they tried to kill it. And actually, the military would not let the Biden administration kill it. They wanted to kill it. And it's going to turn out to be one of our most important things. I think it'll turn out to be one of the most important things they did. But we got involved with NASA bringing it back. And I was saying when I first looked at some of your facilities, they had grass growing on the runways, right in between the cracks of the asphalt. And but not anymore. It's really strong. And what they do, one of the things they do that's so important is for our military offense and defense. And a lot of people say, well, is it worth it? It's really worth it, because what's happened militarily, you see what we're doing militarily, a lot of that comes from space. So it's been pretty great. Good question. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have two questions for you. First, on the topic of space, do you have an update on the UFO files and when we're going to be seeing those?
Well, I think we're going to be releasing as much as we can in the near future. For some reason, and I guess it's just a reason it's been in the minds of people for a long time, that is such, they want to find out about the UFOs and anything having to do with UFO or related material. And we're going to be releasing a lot of things from that we have. And I think some of it's going to be very interesting to people. I've interviewed people, my first term primarily, but I interviewed some pilots, very solid people, and they said they saw things that you wouldn't believe. So you're going to be reading about it, yes.
Sir, you spoke to Vladimir Putin not too long ago. Did you talk to him about
today?
Did you talk to him about progress in the space area, and what else did you talk to him about?
Talk about space? No, I talked about Ukraine, and I talked a little bit about Iran. I talked about a few different subjects, mostly about Ukraine, and we had a very good conversation. I think we're going to come up with a solution relatively quickly, I hope.
What does he want
I
you to
think you'd like to see a solution, I can tell you, and that's good.
What involvement does he want to have in the Iran situation?
He told me he'd like to be involved with the enrichment if he can help us get it. I said I'd much rather have you be involved with ending the war with Ukraine. To me, that would be more important because we're gonna have that. Look, we're not going to let Iran have a nuclear weapon, and we've knocked out their Navy, we've knocked out their Air Force, we've knocked out their anti-aircraft, everything, apparatus, everything they have, their radar, they have very little left. And they have some missiles, a small percentage. They have a small percentage of missile-making facilities. We knocked out about 80% of them. The rest could come very quickly if we don't make a deal. They're not going to have a nuclear weapon. They know it. And just about everybody else does. And so we talked about that a little bit. He doesn't want to see them have a nuclear weapon either. But I had a long talk with President Putin. I suggested a little bit of a ceasefire, and I think he might do that. He might announce something having to do with that. Did he announce it yet?
No, but I was wondering, I was just going to ask you if that...
I asked him about, even if it's a little ceasefire, there's so many people being killed, it's so ridiculous.
Thank you, Mr. President. In light of today's Supreme Court ruling on the Voting Rights Act, do you want Republican states in the South to look at redrawing congressional districts before the midterms?
Tell me, when did the ruling come out? I've been with the astronauts. I've been with contractors because we're trying to get the ballroom built ahead of schedule. It's right on schedule. It's ahead of schedule now. I want to keep it that way.
The ruling came out today.
And I was also with commissioning some people, but one of, David Warrington's son, I don't know, you know David, everybody knows David. He's got this incredible son, so he was just sworn in, so we had other things. Tell me about what happened.
Well, some think that the ruling could create more Republican-held congressional seats in the South.
That's good.
Yeah, would you want them to...
That's the kind of ruling I like.
Would you want them to
When did that happen?
Well, the Supreme Court ruled on it this morning.
Really? Is that right? Tell me about the ruling.
Well, I have a question, Mr. President. On your call with President Putin today, do you think the war in Iran ends first or the war in Ukraine?
Well, we talked more about the war in Ukraine, but he would like to be of help. I said, before you help me, I want to end your war. So we had a good talk. I've known him a long time. I think he was ready to make a deal a while ago. I think some people made it difficult for him to make a deal. But we talked more about Ukraine.
But which war do you think ends first?
That's an interesting question. Coming from you, that's very interesting. Which war would end first? I don't know. Maybe they're on a similar timetable. I think Ukraine, militarily, they're defeated. Okay, you wouldn't know that by reading the fake news, but militarily, look, their Navy. So they had 159 ships. Every ship is right now underwater. Typically, that's pretty good. What do you think, Jared? I mean, it's going to be hard for them to make a naval comeback. Okay, now they have an Air Force. Every one of their planes has been shot down or has been decimated. They have missiles. About 82% are gone. And they have drones, and most of them are gone. Most of the factories are mostly gone. And we have tremendous anti-drone equipment now between lasers and that new very special machine gun that knocks them out of the air like flies. And we use bullets instead of $1 million, missiles to knock out a $30,000 drone. So I would say Jared would tell me that with everything you just heard, typically we're in pretty good shape. And in addition, their economy is crashing. Their, as you know, their money, they call it their money, they don't have a name for it. Their money is valueless. They've got inflation that nobody's ever seen before. Other than that, I think they're doing quite well. If you read the New York Times, you'd say they're doing wonderfully because it's fake news. Or if you watch CNN, I mean, you cover it all the time. You think they're doing well. Do you think they're doing well where they have no Navy, no Air Force, no anti-aircraft apparatus, other than what they may have put there? They may have brought in some light stuff during the ceasefire, and we know exactly where it is, so it'll be knocked out within the first 15 minutes.
You're about to hit the 60-day mark. Just to follow up, Mr. President.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the Supreme Court ruling on the Voting Rights Act. I know you said you haven't seen it
When
in
did it
detail.
come out just now?
No, it came out this morning, but basically very much narrows the Voting Rights Act.
Was it considered a win for
a win for Republicans?
Yes,
absolutely. But my question...
very good. We can end this news conference. I want to read it.
My question for you, Mr. President, is that some Republican governors have not responded in terms of what they're going to do. I guess early voting, for example, in Louisiana starts... Republican governors.
What about it?
Early voting begins Saturday there, for instance. Should they redraw the map in the next couple of days?
I would. I mean, it depends. I mean, some states don't need to redraw, and some do. I mean, I know what the concept of the rule. I just haven't seen the result. Yeah, I would say generally I would think that they would want to do it. Some are greatly helped, and some, didn't make much difference. Yeah, I would say they would do that. They have time to do it. Yeah, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to ask you, there's a lot of drama on the House floor today. Several bills were stalled, and a rule took 2 hours to pass today, and there's still some tension over the Farm Bill. Do you think that you need to get more involved legislatively on Capitol Hill?
Well, we want the Farm Bill. The Democrats don't. We want security, okay? We need security. We want security. The Democrats don't think we need security. They actually do, but they suffer greatly from Trump derangement syndrome, like at levels that nobody's ever seen. They're sick people. There's something wrong with them. They don't want to pay anybody for security. They don't like ICE. They don't like Border Patrol people. They don't like the people that keep us safe. When they ran this, they let 25 million people into our country, and many of those people were from prisons. They were from mental institutions, drug dealers, murderers, 11,888 murders, half of whom committed more than one murder. They think that was fine. I happen to like law enforcement. They essentially want to defund law enforcement, and I don't think the public's going to let them get away with it. We got it all approved in the great big beautiful bill, and they want to renegotiate. We don't like that.
Mr. President, yesterday, Mr. President, the King's speech that he made to Congress, he spoke strongly, forcefully about the necessity for a strong NATO alliance. He also spoke about the necessity to continue to support Ukraine. Did his speech in any way change your thinking on either of those issues?
Well, you have to understand, my thinking is, I think, exactly correct, but I was very disappointed with the fact that when we called on them to give us a little hand, we didn't need it. I actually did it just to see whether or not they'd be there. When we called on NATO to give us a hand with Ukraine, and in particular the most recent, we asked them to do certain things on Ukraine, and we also wanted them to do things with Iran. And on Ukraine, they're very much involved, but they didn't do things the way we would like to see it. It's been going on for a long time. And on Iran, they weren't there. As you know it better than anybody. They weren't there. The King is fantastic. We spent a lot of time together. We had a lot of talk. We talked about this also. And he loves his country, and he's a great king, and he's a great friend of mine. And I think if he were doing that, if that were up to him, he would have probably helped us with Iran. He would have followed the suggestions we made with respect to Ukraine, because, we have some disagreements on Ukraine, and not having to do with NATO so much as European countries. But no, he's coming back tomorrow. We had an incredible evening last night, and he's leaving tomorrow. He's going to come back and see us before he leaves, and But I think he's a phenomenal representative for his country. I think the people in the United Kingdom should be proud. I loved his speech yesterday. I watched it. I loved the speech last night. I don't know about my speech. I thought my speech was okay too, but I thought he was. I think he's an unbelievable king, and by the way, an unbelievable queen. They are a great couple.
This morning, we were talking about how busy you were this morning. James Comey was in court. He self-surrendered. He's now been charged a second time. This time over a social media post with seashells that said 8647. Do you really think that he was endangering your life or threatening your life with that post?
Well, if anybody knows anything about crime, they know 86. You know what 86? It's a mob term for kill him. You ever see the movies? 86 him. The mobster says to one of his wonderful associates, 86 him. That means kill him. I think of it as a mob term. I don't know. People think of it as something having to do with disappearing, but the mob uses that term to say when they want to kill somebody, they say 86, the son of a gun. I'm trying to keep the language nice and clear. They don't use that term, son of a gun. They use another term. But that's a mob term for kill him. Yeah.
But do you really think your life was in danger? Because that's the argument.
Based on what I'm seeing out there, yeah.
Seashells.
The people like Comey have created tremendous danger, I think, for politicians and others. Comey is a dirty cop. He's a very dirty cop. He cheated on the elections. He tried to help Hillary Clinton, as you know. He dismissed a lot of things that he should have proceeded with. I wasn't involved, but he should have proceeded with. No, he's a dirty cop. He's a crooked man, yeah.
Mr. President, you just described there's been disagreement between the U.S. and Keir Starmer on support for Iran. Did your visit with the king smooth that over or create any more?
My visit with the king really was it was extraordinary. I mean, he's an extraordinary man. He's an extraordinary person. And, yeah, it helps from the standpoint that, when you like the king of a country so much, it probably helps your relationship with the prime minister. But, in that case, the prime minister, I said, do you want to send a little help? He said, no, we'll send it after you win the war. I said, that's not good. That's not good. What do you think of that, Jared? Sending help after we win the war? I don't know, something that bothers me. I don't want to get you guys involved, but I can imagine what you're thinking.
The United Arab Emirates, the UAE, they pulled out of OPEC.
Yeah,
what do you think about that?
I think it's great. I think it's great. I know him very well, Mohammed, and very smart. And he probably maybe wants to go his own way. That's a good thing. I think ultimately it's a good thing for getting the price of gas down, getting oil down, getting everything down. They have it all. He's a great leader, actually. So, no, I'm okay. They're having some problems in OPEC.
Mr. President, Kevin Warsh passed a hurdle today. The Senate Banking Committee confirmed his nomination. It will go to the Senate floor. He'll be on the Fed in mid-May. Is it your expectation that he can persuade the other Fed governors to lower interest rates? Because they haven't done so recently.
Because it's a good time to lower them. We're the most prime country anywhere in the world. We're right now having investments made in our country at a level that nobody's ever seen. No other country's ever seen it. Tens of billions of dollars are being invested. Factories, auto plants, AI. I mean, not just AI, because AI is new. We're leading China by a lot in AI, as you know. I'm letting them build their own electric plants. They're building them, otherwise you could never do it. It was a concept that I came up with. I'm very proud of it. And by the way, they're building electric plants that people in the utility industry have never seen before. They're saying, man, that's incredible. So they're building these massive buildings that cost billions of dollars, and they're building their own electric plants. So they're not taking from a source or the old grid, an old grid that wouldn't be able to do it. No, we're leading with everything. But in the history of our beautiful world, there's never been a country that has so much money being invested in it as us. And tremendous number of auto plants, by the way. The auto plants are coming out of Canada, Mexico, Japan, South Korea, Germany. They're all coming to the United States. And The reason is I have a very smart tariff policy. You know, we were taken advantage of for years. We were being ripped off by other countries for years, and those days are over. Yeah,
Mr. President, regarding Iran, how long are you prepared to maintain the blockade? Could that go several more months?
Well, the blockade is genius, okay? The blockade has been 100% foolproof. It shows how good our Navy is, I can tell you that. Nobody's going to play games. We have the greatest military in the world, and I built much of it during my first term, and we've been building it since. And the greatest anywhere in the world, nobody even close. And you see that whether it's Venezuela, and they have a good military in Venezuela, but it was over in one day. It was actually over in about 48 minutes. Iran, the same thing. I mean, militarily, we've wiped them out. They have no military left. It's all the Navy's at the bottom of the sea. The Air Force is never going to fly again. We've got an amazing military. Now they have to cry uncle. That's all they have to do. Just say, we give up. We give up. But their economy is really in trouble. So it's a dead economy.
So will Operation Economic Fury and the blockade get Iran to nuclear talks fast enough, or do you think another wave of strikes will be necessary?
I don't know. It depends. We have talks. We're having talks with them now, and we're not flying anymore with 18-hour flights every time we want to see a piece of paper. We're doing it telephonically, and it's very nice. I make a call, or I have my people make a call, and you know the answer. I always like face-to-face. I consider it better. But when you have to fly 18 hours every time you want to have a meeting, and you know what the meeting's all about, and you know they're going to give you a piece of paper that you don't like before you even leave, it's ridiculous. They've come a long way. The question is whether or not they're going to go far enough. So at this moment, there will never be a deal unless they agree that there will be no nuclear weapons.
Are you
considering relocating NASA's headquarters out of D.C.? States like Florida, Texas, and Ohio have expressed interest.
You're going to have to say it differently.
Sorry, are you considering relocating NASA's headquarters out of D.C. once the lease is up? States like Texas, Ohio, and Florida have expressed interest.
The best man to tell you that is a man standing right over here. You heard that question? With those beautiful ears of yours? He's got great hearing, you know. He's got super hearing.
Trick of the trade, sir.
What's the answer to that?
I think the answer to that is we have 10 amazing centers around the country that all kind of bubble up to contribute to the mission we're able to undertake, like Artemis II. I think in terms of the headquarters, we have a lot of people very interested in our mission. So being here in D.C. gives us the opportunity to kind of interact from all our stakeholders, make sure we make the right decisions for the nation.
Yeah, D.C. is an advantage, I guess, for you. It's got to go around. It's got to see some senators, make sure they keep going, right?
Yes, Mr. President.
Yeah, probably staying around is not so bad. And importantly, Washington, D.C. is now one of the safest cities in the country. When I came here a little more than a year ago, it was a very unsafe city. And now, maybe even more importantly than that, we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. And you helped make it hot. You know, you helped make it hot. When a year and a half ago, and I say it a lot, the King of Saudi Arabia, but others also, the King of Saudi Arabia said, Mr. President, a year and a half ago, we thought you had a dead country. We thought the United States was a dead country, and now you have the hottest country anywhere in the world, and we do. And believe it or not, I mean, when everybody in the world was watching that incredible performance by NASA, these incredible people behind me, where they get the bravery, I have no idea. But you're a big part of it. You really are. We have the hottest country in the world. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, bro. Thank you, bro.
Thank you, sir.
And you were just watching President Trump greeting the astronauts, the 4 astronauts from the Artemis II mission, where the crew flew around the moon, and taking reporter questions, starting off with asking whether the president could get on a spaceship around the moon, and the NASA administrator jokingly saying that they're working on it, maybe not so much a joke, but also taking questions on the Iran war, saying that the U.S. blockade on Iran is working very well, economic pressure, and another thing that President Trump talked about is the Comey case, saying that the The number 86 has been used in mob movies saying to get rid of a person. Okay, breaking now. The Federal Reserve holding interest rates steady as new data shows the economy growing at a solid pace, but inflation remaining elevated. And moments from now, Jerome Powell, the Fed chair, is set to address reporters in what is expected to be his final press appearance as Fed chair. Let's take a quick listen.
Have remained low. The unemployment rate has been little changed in recent months. Inflation has moved up and is elevated, in part reflecting the recent increase in global energy prices. Today, the FOMC decided to leave our policy rate unchanged. We see the current stance of monetary policy as appropriate to promote progress toward our maximum employment and 2% inflation goals. Developments in the Middle East are contributing to a high level of uncertainty about the economic outlook, and we will remain attentive to risks to both sides of our dual mandate. I'll have more to say about monetary policy after briefly reviewing economic developments. Recent indicators suggest that economic activity has been expanding at a solid pace. Consumer spending has been resilient, and business fixed investment has continued to expand at a brisk pace. In contrast, activity in the housing sector has remained weak. In the labor market, the unemployment rate was 4.3% in March and has changed little in recent months. Job gains have remained low. A good part of the slowing in the pace of the job growth over the past year reflects a decline in the growth of the labor force due to lower immigration and labor force participation, though labor demand has clearly softened as well. Other indicators, including job openings, layoffs, hiring, and nominal wage growth, generally show little change in recent months. Inflation has moved up recently and is elevated relative to our 2% longer-run goal. Estimates based on the Consumer Price Index and other data indicate that total PCE prices rose 3.5% over the 12 months ending in March, boosted by the significant rise in global oil prices that has resulted from the conflict in the Middle East. Excluding the volatile food and energy categories, core PCE prices rose 3.2% over the 12 months ending in March. This relatively high rate largely reflects the effects of tariffs on prices in the goods sector. Near-term measures of inflation expectations have risen this year, likely because of the substantial rise in oil prices. Most measures of longer-term expectations remain consistent with our 2% inflation goal. Our monetary policy actions are guided by our dual mandate to promote maximum employment and stable prices for the American people. At today's meeting, the committee decided to maintain the target range for the federal funds rate at 3.5% to 3.75%. The economic outlook remains highly uncertain, and the conflict in the Middle East has added to this uncertainty. In the near term, higher energy prices will push up overall inflation. Beyond that, the scope and duration of potential effects on the economy remain unclear, as does the future course of the conflict itself. We will continue to monitor the risks to both sides of our dual mandate. We are well positioned to determine the extent and timing of additional adjustments to our policy rate based on the incoming data, the evolving outlook, and the balance of risks. Monetary policy is not on a preset course, and we will make our decisions on a meeting-by-meeting basis. This is my last press conference as chair, and I will close with a few thoughts. First, I want to congratulate Kevin Warsh on his advancement out of the Senate Banking Committee this morning. This is an important step forward, and I wish him well as that process continues. The Federal Reserve exists for one fundamental purpose: to foster the economic conditions in which American families and businesses can thrive. Stable prices, a strong job market, and a financial system they can depend on. Every decision we make, whether about interest rates or regulatory and supervisory matters or other issues, is made in service of that purpose. Our decisions reflect the collective judgment of the Board of Governors and the Federal Open Market Committee, colleagues who demonstrate analytical rigor, principled judgment, and a genuine commitment to the public interest. Our collaborative and deliberative process has long reflected a shared commitment to finding common ground in service to our mission. This institution is resilient, capable, and staffed by professionals of extraordinary talent and exceptional dedication. It has been a privilege to serve alongside so many great public servants at the Board of Governors and around the Federal Reserve System. The Fed's work is only as effective as the public's understanding of it, and you, the press, are essential to keeping the public informed about what we do and why. The people we serve benefit from your careful reporting. I welcomed the announcement last Friday by the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia that she had closed the criminal investigation. She also noted, however, that she would not hesitate to restart the investigation. Over the weekend, the Department of Justice provided assurances that they will not reopen the investigation unless there's a criminal referral from the Fed's Inspector General. And, absent such a referral, if they do appeal the recent court decision, they would not seek, as part of that appeal, to restart the investigation or send new subpoenas. I've said that I will not leave the board until this investigation is well and truly over with transparency and finality, and I stand by that. I'm encouraged by recent developments, and I'm watching the remaining steps in this process carefully. My decisions on these matters will continue to be guided entirely by what I believe is in the best interest of the institution and the people we serve. After my term as chair ends on May 15, I will continue to serve as a governor for a period of time to be determined. I plan to keep a low profile as a governor. There's only ever one chair of the Federal Reserve Board. When Kevin Warsh is confirmed and sworn in, he will be that chair. Once sworn in as board chair, his new colleagues will elect him to chair the FOMC as well. As I regularly point out from this podium, our success in delivering our goals matters for all Americans. I'm confident that the Fed will continue to do its work with objectivity, integrity, and a deep commitment to serve the American people. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
And you were just watching the Fed Chair Jerome Powell announcing that the Federal Reserve has made a decision to hold rates steady at 3.5 to 3.75%. That's the Federal Reserve benchmark interest rate. And this is his last appearance as chair in a press conference before his term ends on May 15th. He's congratulating Kevin Warsh as the incoming Fed chair and congratulating him in his advancements in the process of being confirmed, and saying that the Federal Reserve remains data dependent and is making decisions on a meeting by meeting basis. All right, taking a break. Rising tensions with Iran as President Trump reportedly considers extending the naval blockade. What it could mean for nuclear talks and shipping in the region. We have more news after this. Stay with us.
Tired of struggling with that heavy leaf blower? Introducing the Bullseye Power Blower. It delivers a massive blowing force, and yet it's so compact and lightweight. Just lock and load the rechargeable battery for long-lasting runtime. The secret is the compact turbocharged motor with jet burst technology that blasts out 21,000 RPMs of airflow. Watch this. The sheer force propels this woman across the pool. Look, use Bullseye to blow up a huge jump house. Now that's power. Even blows snow right off your vehicle in no time. Turbo clean your porch in a flash, or tidy up your dirty garage floor in seconds. Get it today for just $99.99. But wait, act now and get a $20 discount. So it's only $79.99. Plus, you'll get the adjustable extension tube, yours free, and it all comes with free shipping. Order now.
Call 1-800-209-2313 or go to bullseyeblower.com. That's 1-800-209-2313 or order online at bullseyeblower.com. Order now.
You are not hidden. There's never been a moment you were forgotten. You are not hopeless. Though you have been broken, your innocence stolen. I hear your SOS, your SOS. I will send out an army to find you in the middle of the darkest night. It's true, I will rescue you.
On streets across America, young people are homeless, abused, in danger. Covenant House is helping young people with nowhere else to turn. But the need is overwhelming. Please call or go online now with your gift of $19 a month. You'll help provide hot meals, safe shelter, medical care, and love to more than 2,000 young people who sleep at a Covenant House every night. Homeless young people are afraid and alone. Your monthly donation right now will show them they are loved and safe.
I have no words to express how Covenant House changed my life.
Call or go online now and give just $19 a month. We'll send you this comforting blanket as a reminder of the difference you're making in a young person's life. Call or go online now to safeplacetosleep.org.
A major ruling from the Supreme Court today. Justices ruled in favor of faith-based pregnancy centers. In a unanimous decision, the justices say the pregnancy centers can sue New Jersey in federal court. The case involves a subpoena for their records, which the justices say may violate the First Amendment right of free association. New Jersey Attorney General Matthew Platkin was one of 16 attorneys general who has criticized pro-life pregnancy centers. In 2023, Platkin issued a subpoena to First Choice Women's Resource Centers. He alleged false advertising to donors and consumers. He said the group's donor website highlighted its pro-life stance, while client sites were less explicit. First Choice denied wrongdoing, saying it does not provide or refer for abortions, which is clearly stated on its website. Lower courts blocked the federal case, saying it must first go through state court. First Choice called this a catch-22. It cited legal rules that could prevent the case from being heard again. In another ruling today, the Supreme Court limiting race-based redistricting in the Louisiana case. In a 6-3 decision, the court says race cannot be used to draw electoral district boundaries. The case focused on whether a lower court order to create a second black majority congressional district in Louisiana was constitutional. A federal district judge had ordered the state to create the second district to comply with the anti-discrimination provisions of the Federal Voting Rights Act. A group of non-black voters sued the map, arguing it discriminated against non-minorities. The ruling was authored by Justice Samuel Alito and joined by his 5 fellow conservative justices. Alito said Section 2 must enforce the Constitution's ban on intentional racial discrimination under the 15th Amendment. Now to the redistricting battle in Virginia, where the state Supreme Court has denied a request to immediately overturn a lower court ruling that blocks certification of the referendum results. The decision means the referendum outcome cannot be certified while court proceedings continue. A county judge previously ruled the measure invalid, saying the process violated Virginia's constitution. If certified, the new congressional map would shift 10 of the state's 11 districts in favor of Democrats. That's compared with the current split of 6 Democratic and 5 Republican districts. Virginia Attorney General Jay Jones asked the court to allow certification to proceed while the case moves forward. Attorneys for Republican groups argue the measure was improperly placed on the ballot and did not meet timing requirements under the state constitution. Democrats defended the process, saying it complied with legal standards and should stand. The Florida House this morning approved the governor's proposed congressional map in an 83-28 vote. If signed into law, it could shift 4 seats currently held by Democrats into Republican-leaning territory, changing the state's delegation from a 20-8 Republican advantage to 24-4. The map now heads to the state Senate, which is expected to vote on it this afternoon. A special passport for America's 250th birthday. The State Department planning a limited release featuring President Trump. More news after this break. Stay tuned.
A performance that truly matters for each and every one of us. This is what you've been waiting for. See it at least once in your lifetime. Shenyun. Get tickets now at shenyun.com.
Have you heard what's happening at Mathis Home? Our spring style event is going on now with hundreds of options for your new dining room. This 52-inch table is a great deal. It's just $4.99 in your choice of finishes. Mix and match chairs to complete the look that's just right for you. You can also get it with a marble top or in a larger size for extra seating. We have your style in stock now with fast, free delivery. Get your new dining room and save at your furniture superstore, Mathis Home.
I'm Amy Grant, and I want to talk to you from my heart about the heart. I would have been the last person on the list to say this woman has a problem with her heart. So no, there was nothing about my life that said, you have a ticking time bomb in your chest. But I did. I wound up in the office of a cardiologist because I was there with my husband. And at the tail end of that, the cardiologist looked at me and said, I want to see you. No one was more surprised than I was to learn I was living with a rare heart condition. He said, Amy, this condition, you'll be fine, and then catastrophic. A few months later, I had open heart surgery that saved my life. And I owe it to the research and life-saving medical breakthroughs developed by the American Heart Association. That's why I'm asking you to join me and become a monthly donor to the American Heart Association. Please call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help fund the next medical breakthrough, get the next person trained in CPR, and get the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care. If this could happen to me, it could happen to anybody. Heart disease is America's #1 killer, but your support can save your life or the life of someone you love. Give $19 a month with your credit card and we'll send you this special t-shirt you can wear to show you're part of a community of monthly donors working to help save more lives like mine. I'm grateful for the American Heart Association. Their research gave me more time to do the things I love with the people I love. So listen to your heart. I'm here today because I did. Please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org now to become a monthly donor and help save even more lives. Thank you.
Nick Rayner is in court today for a pre-trial hearing. The son of Hollywood actor and filmmaker Rob Rayner is charged with killing both of his parents. Nick Rayner has pleaded not guilty to 2 counts of first-degree murder. The 32-year-old was arrested in December after police found Rob Rayner and his wife Michelle stabbed to death in their home in the upscale Brentwood neighborhood of Los Angeles. In the years before his arrest, Nick Rayner spoke publicly about his struggles with substance abuse and periods of homelessness that occurred when he refused to enter rehab. Nick Rayner has been held without bail since his arrest. A judge will decide whether or not the case will go to trial after today's hearing. Cleanup is underway in North Texas after violent weather hammered broad swaths of the U.S. heartland. Here's an update.
Currently, the Palapena County judge and the Parker County judge are both working on declaring the area a disaster.
Authorities in Mineral Wells, Texas, addressing the damage left by a tornado that flattened parts of the town.
Y'all pray for everybody in Mineral Wells, Texas, guys. It's crazy out here right now.
Several people were injured, 2 of them hospitalized when the tornado ripped through the town about 80 miles west of Dallas Tuesday, the 6th day of a severe storm outbreak that has terrorized the Midwest and continues to wreak havoc in the South. The violent storms Tuesday also came with hail. Hailstones up to tennis ball and baseball size pummeled Springfield, Missouri, damaging vehicles and knocking down power poles.
I gotta get out of here.
A storm chaser in Missouri reacting as the icy chunks rained down on his car, cracking his windshield. In neighboring Illinois, authorities are assessing damage from a tornado Monday that ripped through several towns in Clinton County, including Germantown. The storm damaged homes, toppled trees and power lines, and blocked roads. Meanwhile, wildfires continue to burn in parts of the South, including South Florida, where a massive blaze is burning in Everglades National Park. As of Tuesday night, it had expanded to more than 5,000 acres.
The State Department says it's preparing a limited release of commemorative U.S. passports marking the nation's 250th birthday. The design will include a picture of President Trump. Officials say he would be the first living president featured in a U.S. travel document. The concept has been under consideration for months and was approved late Monday. It includes a rendering of President Trump's image. Between 25,000 and 30,000 of the commemorative passports will be issued. They will be available at the Washington, D.C. passport office ahead of July 4th. The commemorative version will be the default there. Applicants can still request a standard passport online outside Washington. A major rollback on gun policy. The Justice Department is set to unveil new rules aimed at protecting Second Amendment rights, reversing several Biden-era measures. More news after this break. Don't go away.